Big Brother is watching you.
Oh.
Listeners, you are warned. This program is not to be listened to.
Welcome to 1984 Today, your one-stop shop for all things dystopian. I'm your host, Mike Friedman. In this episode, our guest is the film director Sergei Loznitsa. Sergei is a Ukrainian director of documentaries and feature films, and he was born in Belarus when it was part of the Soviet Union. He's won too many awards to list here, and I don't want to make him blush by trying to. However, one does merit special emphasis. In 2018, he won the Un Certain Regard Award for Best Director at Cannes for his film Donbass, a dark satire of what was then separatist fighting in eastern Ukraine, now, of course, a focal point in the ongoing war in Ukraine. It's an incredible film, powerful, funny, moving, and truthful, and I strongly recommend that you find it and watch it wherever you are. A few of his other documentaries worth mentioning, as we might touch on them later, are The Natural History of Destruction, about the Allied bombing of Nazi Germany, The Trial, about the infamous Industrial Party show trial in Stalin's Soviet Union in 1930, and State Funeral, an in-depth look at the funeral that Stalin was given when he died in 1953. I feel particularly lucky because the stars have aligned, and I actually get to sit with him in person while we talk. Sergei, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you. Hello.
Now, one of the first things I wanted to touch on is when the Russian invasion of Ukraine happened in February 2022, you had a bit of a back and forth in, shall we say, the broader professional film circles with the European Film Academy and then subsequently the Ukrainian Film Academy. Are you happy to tell us a little bit about that, or would you like me to summarize for the audience?
What happened with the European Film Academy? Yeah, but this story in the past already. So I just react and I published my statement. I think it was a Screen Daily about the statement which they published on their webpage, European Film Academy, about the Russian war against Ukraine. They were very accurate, delicate, and they even did not name it the war is war. They didn't use this kind of word. And it was very strange to read when Kiev already was bombed, to read that they expressed their worrying about the growing tension in the east of Ukraine. This kind of
soft language.
Soft language. And for me, it was, when you observe this war, which started in the center of this capital of my country, and to read this statement, it was impossible because this is a film society. It's a fighters, directors, so I don't know, cinematographers. They must be fighters in avant-garde of this movement, and such a statement. So soft and so euphemism, they're using euphemism, and as a reaction to my statement, they completely delete what they published before, and they published more radical stuff. They saying that from that moment we cancel all Russian films. We are not observing any Russian films.
But then, of course, which is fascinating because, like you said, it's a complete U-turn. They start off by softballing the invasion, and then you pointed out that a war is a war, and you can't belong to a society like that ignores this and uses those type of euphemisms. They turn around and say, okay, we are sanctioning Russia, we are not going to show any Russian films, and then, of course, you stood up for Russian filmmakers.
Yeah. They have, I think, a very good nose, and they understand where is the crowd, and where is the fluger of political life, and this how it turn, and where are all politicians. Probably, but it was very strange. Okay, it happened like happened.
But just the kind of the kicker and the sting in the tail, as I recall, is that then because they turned around and said, we won't be showing Russian films, you then said that was inappropriate as well because they were punishing Russian individuals, many of whom were against the war, collectively for something the Russian government was doing, which resulted in you getting excluded, in quotation marks, from the Ukrainian Film Academy, right?
It's another story which happened immediately after, and I was surprised when I just read it in newspaper because the members of this so-called Ukrainian Film Academy they did not ask me any comment, and they made a decision without announce.
No discussion.
No discussion with me. No question. No asking. Just they made this decision for I don't know some 6-5 hours in Facebook. This is we are all victim of this social nets. Yeah, and this is serious. This is serious because crowd manipulate to our society. Crowd.
Yes.
A lot of uneducated people manipulate with government, with authorities, and there's another dangerous issue which we are faced now. So, but what they use as like a case when they accuse me that my films participate in my old films from 2010 and 2012, which distribute by French distributor, and I don't have any information, of course, because they distribute when somebody asks would like to show film. So, and my films participate together with Russian films in film festival Nantes.
In France.
In France, University Film Festival, which made a festival because they study Slavic languages and study Russian and Russian culture, of course, and they made a festival for students. Nobody knows about this festival. That and after that, it was a little bit a lie. Not a little, it's a lie, that I agree to participate, I'm happy to participate, and etc., etc.
That you were like standing sholdder to shoulder with Russian films as if you had crossed a picket line or something.
Can you imagine? And I just, about this festival, I read in newspaper together with information that I was expelled from Film Academy.
Astonishing.
But this academy, it's a private factory. It's a private person who pay money for that and made this academy, and so-called oligarch. And this is academy which not represent all Ukraine film society. Sure. And I know a lot of people who are not members. And they organized it at 2017, and they invited me. As a well-known film director, yes, in the world, they invited and asking me support them. Of course, I said, okay, of course. So
they asked you to join in 2017, and then they booted you out in 2022.
Yeah. And of course, behind that, few people who waiting the moment how to, make something against me.
And to make a statement.
Yeah. It's a
As you
private
say, yes.
interest, and one of this person, it is a Ukraine co-producer of film Donbass. Yes, and we have a lot of fighting. There's a lot of fighting during production. I fight for film, and he fights for something else, and But I won everywhere in all this fighting because for me, it's the quality of film and. It's most important, and
of course,
and he find this way how to
the underlying political tension that comes out.
Yes, it's life, It's, but it's a very funny story, and of course. It connects to my statement which I made in French press about this discussion about participating Russian films in Cannes or some other film festivals or not. And of course I said that it's stupid to make a total boycott, and we have to just we have to be selective and thinking to whom we would like to punish, or festivals would like to punish. And of course they all decide not to participate with official representative of Russian film society, but some directors, even directors who just escaped Russia years and years before, why not? And directors who made the films against this regime and criticize this regime, why not? What is, it's strange because this kind of things happened during First World War, during Second World War, and here in Great Britain and in France, they said that never again, we never perform Wagner or Beethoven. And in Germany, they think that we never will make a play of Shakespeare. It is, of course, it's understandable reaction. But
it's a very small-minded reaction.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course.
But
we have to think about our culture, civilization, and asking ourselves what is the connection between, to some bastard and dangerous, aggressive people and criminals, and culture and people who represent culture. What is the connection? So,
well, yes, it's a very kind of it's a very simplistic idea that governments and the people, and governments and the culture of the country that they govern, are somehow the same or even fundamentally connected, right?
Yes, this why I said that it's very dangerous when crowd have a voice. It's a democracy, end of democracy. The crowd have voice in social net, and can collect these voices and organize movement and etc. etc.
Well, it's odd, right? I mean, I was taught that demoskratia is the voice of the people, right? That democracy is the voice of the people, but that doesn't mean mob rule. It doesn't mean the pitchforks and the torches coming for you just because people don't like something you said. It's not the kind of exclusionary fixation of the small village. It's meant to be, to use a word that you were accused of, actually. It's a cosmopolitan idea.
Yeah.
And this was a word that it fascinated me when I was looking into the history. For those who don't know, that the way the Ukrainian Film Academy phrased their description of you was to call you cosmopolitan, which you pointed out in your rebuttal has a very strong connotation that goes back to the Soviet Union, and it relates to something that that people were accused of when they were enemies of the revolution, when they were apostates, that a cosmopolitan is like a world citizen. They're somehow looking outward. They're not nationalistic. They don't focus enough on their own country.
Cosmopolitan also in this Soviet dictionary was a word which defined, or it is a kind of euphemism. Instead to saying Jew, they're saying cosmopolitan.
I see. Yes, the quote-unquote world Jewry, right?
Yes. And of course, and all this enemy also was a cosmopolitan. Yeah. And it's strange how language defend himself.
Well, it's a very important thing, this subtlety. Like you said, it's the soft language of the European Film Academy that drew your attention.
Yeah.
The refusal to call something by its name. And they're doing it for their own reasons, to hide something. The Ukrainians are using language that, to the people who know, means something other people might not pick up on, and it signals something that you notice and you didn't want them to get away with it, so you called it out. Language, and as we learned from Orwell as well, it's so fundamental to how we understand the world and to how we govern ourselves and live together, that when it gets abused, when it's erased or contorted, it's a very dangerous thing, really.
Yes, of course, because it's strongly influenced to the people, and some words shot.
I like a shot.
Yes,
You
like a shot.
You said, if I can quote you, "What is happening before our eyes is horrible, but I'm asking you to not fall into craziness. We must not judge people based on their passports. We can judge them on their acts. A passport is tied to the place we happen to be born, whereas an act is what a human being does willingly."
Absolutely. Who said that?
You did.
Great. Great text.
No, it's beautifully put.
Sign it. Yes.
But it's beautifully put, and I feel like that's really at the heart, in a way, having seen some of your films as well. Obviously, I wasn't able to watch all of them, but it feels like it's something that sits within or behind your films as well, this question of the difference between individual people and these bigger ideas, ideologies, governments, nations. There's a kind of challenge in your work. For those who don't know, many of your documentaries use exclusively archive material, so constructed from historical footage with sound design, maybe some music, but always telling the story of a particular event or a particular time, using the material from that time itself. And so often what emerges is what I felt, a kind of an uncomfortable compassion. Like in The Natural History of Destruction, which is your film about the Allied bombing of Germany, the opening is, of course, just people living their lives, street scenes, families, children. There just happened to be some swastika flags in the background.
Yes, Nazi people.
Yeah, people who live in Nazi Germany. But it kind of brings a strong question. People who live in Nazi Germany are not automatically Nazis. Or maybe you don't feel that way. I don't know.
Or we always, because we somehow only Robinson Crusoe is a happy guy, spent alone some years on the island.
The only one who's pure because he's alone.
Yes. But we all, some kind of pay this rent for living in society, and sometimes even in war condition, we have to share the common destiny. If you want or don't want, you will be. Yeah.
You get dragged along.
But what to do, for example, for people, what people have to do when they realize that they are in occupied territory. They have to collaborate, they have to fight, they have to die, immediately make a suicide. What they have to do? Because it's circumstances against which they don't have any capacity to fight.
They can't control what's happening. Of course.
They can't control what happened, and but they have to make a decision. And it happened during each war, and even now, for example. Yes, and how the other part of nation look to them, how they accept that they are living in their house and they have their own circumstances. For example, sick old mother, father. You cannot transport them. You have to stay and, taking care about them. But you stay in territory which occupied by enemy. Serious question. I made a film, by the way, about this. It's a feature film based on the novel by a Belarusian writer, Vasil Bykov, a film named In the Fog. It's about this kind of difficult question when society thinking that some guy, because of circumstances, a traitor, but he is not. But he can't do anything with his opinion. He can't protect himself and explain anything.
Because even to speak out is suicide sometimes, right?
Yeah, he finished his life himself because he didn't have any. He made a suicide, but he don't have any possibility, and he cannot live with that, and he cannot protect himself, his name, his dignity, only one way. So we it's pity that we coming back now to all this question, which already I think we're passing through 80 years ago, and something happened in our mind, and we just maybe reflect. We all like 2 generation after. My parents, they remember Second World War.
Of course.
Because they was born 39, 40, but they still remember some episode. And now this territory, these 2 countries now, I mean, Russia attack Ukraine, and people again in same territory, they are passing through all these circumstances and all this verdammten Fragen, diabolic question. How in German they say,
the damned questions.
Damned questions. Yes. Unfortunately.
This connects quite directly, really, with a case I'm sure you're familiar with of Vladimir Kara-Murza, who is a journalist, historian, writer, filmmaker, activist, very active in Russia as part of the opposition to Putin, very vocal, traveled widely to speak out. And he, around the same time, of course, that you were finding yourself in your own way dealing with these questions with the film academies, in March 2022, he spoke to the Arizona House of Representatives in the United States. And it's believed that that speech that he gave formed the basis of charges that were brought against him by the Russian government. I felt that it would be important, especially for our audience, to hear his voice before we talk about his situation. So this is a short excerpt from what he said in Arizona in 2022.
It is an honor to be here in the Arizona State Legislature. Very grateful to be here as well, because I wasn't sure as I was getting out of Moscow last week if I would even be able to come in, because most of the airspace around Russia is now closed, as you know, as a response from Western democracies to the war of aggression. And this is a legal term from the Nuremberg statutes, which I'm using deliberately, the war of aggression that Vladimir Putin's regime has unleashed against the nation of Ukraine. Since the war against Ukraine has been started, thousands of Russians have been going onto the streets, literally every single day, to protest against what is happening, to protest against this crime that is being done, supposedly in our name. And according to the latest count by human rights groups, more than 15,000 arrests were made across Russia since February the 24th, the day of the aggression, against those people who have tried to demonstrate against the war. I say tried because all public demonstrations in Russia are forbidden. To such an extent that, for example, several days ago, at the end of last week, in fact, a Russian Orthodox priest was arrested after he left his church after speaking out against the war in his sermon after Sunday service in his church in the Kostroma region. He reminded people of the sixth commandment, thou shalt not kill. For this he was arrested and taken to police station and charged and fined under the new administrative offense of quote-unquote discrediting the armed services of the Russian Federation, end of quote. So if you recite a biblical commandment, you're discrediting the armed forces. This is the Orwellian reality that Vladimir Putin's regime has created in our country.
Besides the fact that that's a very powerful thing to hear, what immediately jumps out at me are a few things. First, he also focuses on this question of language, about calling a war a war. He also refers to Orwell, who's become this touchstone, this reference point, particularly for people who lived through the Soviet Union or other totalitarian regimes. And most touchingly to me, the example he gives of the Orthodox priest, those were the charges that he was charged with that resulted in him in April 2023 receiving a 25-year sentence, apparently the longest sentence given to a political prisoner since the Soviet Union time. And again, in his closing speech to the court, he said, I also know that the day will come when the darkness over our country will evaporate, when black will be called black and white will be called white, when it will be officially recognized that 2 times 2 is still 4, when a war will be called a war. And so again, even when he was on the line, looking at the judge, these questions of something has to be true, something has to be a fact, and to say it and to call it what it is must be a fundamental human right or everything is lost. I find that so powerful. And of course, he connects with Orwell. I just wanted to, because of course, again, for those who might not know, your film, The Trial, is a very powerful reconstruction of an infamous, or possibly the most infamous, show trial held in Moscow in 1930 under Stalin, when a group of engineers were accused of trying to sabotage the Soviet Union's 5-year plan. And we have, again, 90 years later, a show trial in Russia.
Unfortunately, yes, but I would like to express my deeply respect and support to his position, Vladimir, and support to Vladimir Karamurza. He is now hero. It's not so many people who can saying openly what he said in the court, and not so many politicians. Is one of the most important politician from opposition, or let's say, I don't know, in Russia does not exist opposition. There's a democratic side. Yeah. And I hope that this 25 years, it is just a dream of that power and that authorities, and this country and this kind of state will destroy it yearly, and maybe I don't know how many years. But I think that they destroy it from inside, not because of people and some movement, but because they cannot manage anything. It is kind of anarchy inside. And if we just look this story of Soviet Union from the revolution, let's say, from this the biggest catastrophe, 1917, when group of gangsters, using this ideology, foolished a lot of uneducated people. In Russia, in that moment, only 15% can read and write. 15% for all population. You can imagine how easily they can be manipulated. After that, Stalin created with his corporation. It's a corporative state with a corporation of people who, and also using this old ideology. It wasn't communism or something, socialism or no. It's a totalitarian regime, and from that moment till 1991, this country, which was frozen by Stalin, slowly destroyed.
Like it ate itself from the inside.
Yeah. And I think that this is why I made the film, for example, State Funeral, when you can openly observe what was this Soviet Union, what is a kind of state which was built by one person. And also you can already predict what happened in the future with this country. I think this country was destroyed. It's the first explosion in this dump. First explosion was the Stalin death. And after, step by step, different, not such a talented leaders of Soviet Union, they lose possibility to manage any process in this country, economic process, politics, and etc. And after what we observed, that secret services, the KGB, came to the power, but what kind of knowledge they have? How to,
manipulate,
how to make a diversion, and etc. And we now have result of all of that, absolutely predictable result. That it will be a war, because this is only what they can do, and more degradation of society, amoralization. First, they demoralize society completely. It's most dangerous what happened. Varlam Shalamov, he also wrote about that, and he said that this gulag will be exploded, and all country will be kind of gulag from this. How to say from the position of how people represent world. It is a criminal world which came to normal life and transformed this life, and also transform language. And it's more and more people, even the president and authorities, different kind of, but they use the brutal and criminal words, argot, in political statement, on political stage, which absolutely impossible, but it is possible. It's a part of normal language, how language criminalize. And of course, the way how people act also, it's more and more at the end we have a situation when total disaster will be everywhere. And if you send signal, I can saying as a mathematic, if you send signal from your top to the level 3 or 5 to make something, I'm not sure that this signal, without distortion or even came to the level 5, and people will do what you want. It's a total distraction of management of that country, and this very dangerous, because in this country they built a lot of atomic station and
nuclear weapons,
a lot of the factories which produce some chemistry, dangerous chemistry also, and different other factories which can be as like Chernobyl in the future, because it's total chaos everywhere, And this is the end of that empire. When you have, like the Soviet Union, it was the same. When they are looking where is the sugar in the country. The Communist Party, the Politburo, they are looking where is the sugar in the country. They knew that the sugar exists, but where, they don't know.
And I mean, this is something that I agree is a very worrying development, not only in Russia, the loss of trust, the catastrophic loss of trust in institutions, in systems, in processes, in not only the capability and the good intentions of people who are in government, but even doubts about their own self-interest. You can always rely on someone's greed or ego, right? When you get to the point where you feel like you don't know what the hell is going on at all, where people will just do anything at any point, where you don't trust what you see in the paper or what you see on the news or what you read in a magazine, where you think about what you say to other people and you don't know if they're really saying what you think they're saying, or the words, are they being literal? This kind of fog that descends, this loss of any believability.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are not ants.
We don't just get a signal and carry on. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it's more complicated system, and we need to find some way how to organize, not a way how it organized in China, for example, in the East, in the countries in the East. It's also a solution for such a big amount of people. So, but yes, we have. I think we have in all societies. Doesn't matter. Like it's totalitarianism, like in Russia, or democracy, like in some democratic countries. Yes, the risk is the same, and process is the same. Yes, because more and more we need educate. Self-decision, people who can make can make a decision.
Yes.
And responsible people on any position, very important position, because we, live in a very industrial and society with complex processes around us.
In your documentaries, particularly in The Trial and State Funeral, and also in Donbass, which is a feature film, something that was a question I kept having. It nagged me, it poked at me while I was watching those films. What is real? What is true? Watching State Funeral, for example, you see a shot of some men in Azerbaijan walking over a bridge in a funeral procession for Stalin. But it's just a bridge in the middle of nowhere. Where are they coming from? Where are they going? Is it them? Is it spontaneous? Is it staged? Are they sad? They look maybe sad? Maybe they're pretending? And this goes on for the whole funeral process. People are crying, but they're in a crowd. Are they crying because they're sad? Are they crying because other people are looking and they need to be crying? They take off their hats in respect, or they take them off because everyone else takes them off? In Donbass, I don't want to spoil the film, but the opening scene of that film is extraordinary because it immediately establishes this total lack of clarity of what is real and what is not, what is fake, what is true. Something that's come up in other conversations I've had is this question of hyperreality, of not really knowing whether something is real or a product of a machine or propaganda or fake or a simulation. And that, to me, seems to also be a question that Orwell was very focused on, that we had to have something, some bedrock for a society. We have to have some basis where things are true. And what Vladimir Kara-Murza says in his speeches, and what you have said in your writing and what I feel in your films, is a very deeply felt need for something to be true, for us to know this is this, and then we can have a conversation. And when that's lost, or when people interfere and make us doubt or question the very idea that anything can be certain, it's like we have no legs. Everything is lost. And it's frightening.
Many questions. It's a question about individual and question about society, group of people. So, state funeral, I can say that some people, of course, honestly crying and, feel regret that Stalin died. Some people, of course, they imitate that they are crying and pretend that they are very deeply regret. Some people self-organize, organize themselves, and they just create this column of the people and with slogan, lozung, this kind of
carrying placards.
Yeah. Placards, and yes. Even in Moscow, in that days, few million people came just to participate, to watch God in this zal, where he was present to public. It's very interesting also that they present him, and he was in the moment when they just bring coffin to mausoleum to put together with Lenin. Yes. He was in kind of scaphandre. It was a solution because they cannot use the open coffin because if some rain or some weather, wrong weather,
it was funny. He's in a coffin, but it's got this kind of 1950s glass bubble over his face, so you can see his head in it.
But they have to show that it's real Stalin.
They have to prove to the public that it's really Stalin.
It's not a dolly in a coffin. Yeah, and it was a solution. Also, it is a word, visual word. I mean, the text. It's a visual text.
Yes, it's a statement.
Statement, yes. This coffin is a statement. And it tells us about many things. So it means that it's not enough if somebody is saying that Stalin died. We have to prove, like in many centuries before, to show the head of your enemy.
It reminded me.
Yeah.
There's an old story about a man who used to run one of the big Hollywood studios, Louis B. Mayer. Mm-hmm. I believe it's an apocryphal story that when he died, a very big crowd turned up for his funeral, but he was known to be unpopular. And someone asked, why are all these people here? And the answer was, they're here to make sure he's dead.
Yes.
And there was an element of that with Stalin's funeral also.
Probably. But I'm not sure that in Soviet Union it was a lot of people like that and thinking like that. I'm not sure. So, and it's difficult because nobody made sociological research in that time, and it's difficult to say how many people crying because they would like to cry. But it is also a moment of this hysteria of crowd.
The hysteria of crowds, yes.
Yes, it's a history. Hysterical. It's a madness, kind of madness. And it's not a madness which appeared only in that day. No. It was already, and this regime exists. It was possible to have this regime because many people was a small Stalin inside themselves. They share his opinion and his acts, and they many of them understand what happened, and that some percentage of population in Gulag and millions were killed. It wasn't like, of course, newspaper Pravda did not publish that, but exists this another radio rumor. And the neighbors, and I think many people understand which country they are living, and but many of them, I think, was a real Stalinist. And what tell me about that? Also, Stalin, after Khrushchev's speech. In 1956, 3 years after the speech about cult of personality.
When he was disavowed, when they said this was actually a crazy period, we're not going to do that again, he's not a nice guy.
Yes, but Stalin taking care about that, not we are. But, Stalin was a smart guy. He signed some list of people who must be killed and sent to all members of Politburo. And Molotov, Khrushchev also signed this paper. All papers, all pages.
Lists.
Yes, death penalty. They agree. And so
they couldn't just wash their hands and say, oh, it was this one crazy guy.
Of course. And also Stalin, that in 1953, yes, they put him coffin to mausoleum, and he lived in mausoleum as a mummy. He was till 1961, and they removed him from mausoleum during the night. They built fence around mausoleum, like they just rebuilt something, and remove him and burying him in the place where his bones
against
exist.
the Kremlin wall, right?
Yeah, close to the mausoleum.
So he got
he
got 8 years in the mausoleum, and then they very quietly just moved him and stuck him in a corner.
But why? My question, of course, it's a speech. Khrushchev's speech was in 1953. Why he 8 years lived in mausoleum? And answer which I can find, it's just a lot of people were Stalinists, and authorities afraid made this kind of symbolic act. Yeah, it tells us about society, but it's understandable. And all roots of recent Russia there in this time.
And it's like a hangover also, right?
Yeah.
You can't shake it off. And this is what I meant when I was... I don't even know if it was a question really, but it was just for me something that really shakes me in your films, and when I look at what's going on in the world today, this sense of quicksand almost. One can't even talk about certain things because we kind of slip, we go down, we don't have something solid to stand on. these things that were left as clues, as warnings in Orwell's books or the people who came after, this idea that 2 and 2 make 4, that we need to be able to call a war. Why? It's not because we want to point our finger at a particular person. It's not because we love mathematics. It's because some things are true. Some things must be true and some things not so much. And we have to be able to put our finger on them or else we can't live together.
Yeah, but of course each society have to define the ground in which this society built. Criterium. Moral criterium and criterium of our life, what we can do, what we cannot do, and start from zero. Like, each computer have now is more complicated things, but a basis is assembler, the language assembler, and 0 and 1.
Yeah, binary code, 1 and 0, yes.
1 and 0. Yes, this 1 and 0 must be, and they have to.
So they are cultural, but they do need to be established. It can be individual countries or societies that do it. But we need, like you say, we need a kind of social binary code. We need something underneath everything else.
When society is met, people who live inside this society, they cannot define themselves with another language. But they use language which belongs to this madness. And the other language they cannot use because they don't know anything about that. This is a difficulty. And only crisis and or war or something like that.
A rupture.
Yeah, can help shake society and new society can be born from this desert, let's say. I remember one sentence of Russian philosopher. I don't know, he is Georgian, but Soviet Union. Soviet philosopher Mirab Mamardashvili, when they discuss in the beginning of 90s, they discuss that Soviet Union will collapse and Communist Party is past, and the new road lead us to another democratic liberal society, and etc. He said that no, I'm not sure that it is like that, and I disagree with that. That we just put our
hand out
and receive everything from like a gift. And he said that the things, the objects or substantial which did not live cannot die. We have deal with the dead things. And what you just can do with the water, metaphorical water, just growing something alive. And this is very difficult to do.
You can't grow a living thing from a dead thing.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And we have like hostess around us. And this why this like I made a film Donbass, and because I was surprised. It's based on Amateur's video. It's a feature film. We recreate situation and I rewrite this situation. But first I made this situation and episodes in Amateur's video, and I was surprised that people imitate something. They are not existing. They imitate. And the real existence does not exist for them. You know?
I mean, this is the challenge of film itself, right, as well?
Oh, it is maybe the one of the biggest trap which each individual, each person have in his life. Because we always have some example, and we would like to be like this example. And they also they are growing with Soviet cinema. And like if we remember this confrontation during Maidan, what people use, Molotov cocktail and stone against police, and police beat them, like during like in Soviet films about revolution, and finally they made a catapulta. Catapulta, it's you know, this
Like a trebuchet, yes, like a siege weapon.
like a cannon,
A slingshot,
proto-cannon,
yeah.
yes, which is okay. It's a weapon and it's funny in the same time and address us to the Middle Age, let's say, or even deeper in the Roman Empire. So, and when I watch it and I thinking, okay, what people want? They want make the revolution and change power. But why they use this kind of method? It's a peaceful, of course, peaceful protest, but with a stone, it's not such a peaceful with a Molotov cocktail.
Yeah,
it's
of
already,
course.
if they are serious, they have to use this technology which Trotsky proposed when they took power in 1917. You know, his brain produced the action which based on net. He just sent the group of armed people, soldiers and seamen, sent to bank, post, electro station, telephone station, bridges, and you know, there's contemporary or temporary authorities, government, temporary government.
The nodes of government. Yeah,
Yes.
like a coup. You seize the places where power is.
They were blocked without telephone, without electricity, and they cannot do anything.
Because they couldn't communicate with each other.
Yeah, but they staying in this building, Winter Palace, but they can't do anything. And this is a smart idea because Lenin proposed that collect the workers and push them, soldiers, workers, and express protest, and after that, you know, create some fighting. Trotsky said, no, let's give me a chance. And he blocked them. It was already in 1917. Why people on Maidan did not use this strategy? And it's very interesting because I think, not only because of that, but I think that this education with the cinema, Soviet cinema, when you, as a child, you watch it and you just have this stamp of action, how to act in different situations, because you have hero there and, you know, and somehow it works. It's interesting.
And so even our own ideas of how to do things, even if they're very big things like to take part in a revolution, are imprinted or influenced by the media we've consumed, and so we end up imitating, right? We play act being a revolutionary.
Yeah, but we always have an eye on back our
on the back of our head.
Our head, yes, just looking to the past. Always with this kind of experience, only people who have open mind can define what happened with us right now and what we have to do in these circumstances. Two important things. But understand what happened, it's much more important because you already have a plan. If you understand that what you want and where you are. Where you are, it's the most difficult question. Connect to personality and connect to society. For both.
On that point, all I'd say is that it resonates with me because it emphasizes the importance of history. And in your films also, because you focus on archive material a lot of the time, we're looking at things that were filmed in 1930, in 1953, in the 40s. And we know from making films that when you film something, you're already making a choice. You're already leaving something out to focus on something else. And so it creates this question for me that we are relying on these sources that themselves were kind of edited to begin with. And so someone at the time is choosing what about that time they want to preserve. And then we go back and say, okay, we're now telling the story of this time, but we're telling the story of this time with what they left us. And so there's this kind of diminishing return. We don't really know where we've been, really, in a sense.
It's too abstract, but the question, because many conditions when you make a film. Of course, absolutely true exist in archive. Let's say truth about events which happened in that moment in front of the camera, and in archive, like different sequences of footage saying you truth. When you start edit, you already create meaning, of course, and it is a kind of condition of our work. We must, without that we cannot. So, and of course, cinema is art which exists in time, and we already have some definition, like things which I show before. It is things which happened, before, and the next sequences which I show after. First of all, we thinking that because of previous sequences, next happened. And if you change position, you change meaning. Yes?
We edit in our minds, yes. You show us something in sequence.
Or you have to saying that somehow give this feeling of time and saying that it happened before. Like Gaspar Noé made a film when everything
irreversible.
moved.
Yes.
Irreversible, yes. And this is interesting game with our perception.
Yes.
You work with our perception because it's irreversible, but in film it is in one direction.
Still chronological.
Still chronological, yes. It's a paradox. So things which you can do, but for example, the episodes of our life which have equal importance and happened in one moment, like revolution which Trotsky made, you cannot show in film. Maybe like 4 screen, 5 screen.
Right, because it's not simultaneous. You can't show
simultaneous,
yes,
like Mike Fincher made a film about that. Simultaneous, yes, but it will be another media.
Yes, of course.
A little bit. Or like Rybczynski also create our vision with the different cameras which exist in different places, and after that we have a concept of space. So, but it's a little bit different. Yeah, we have to tell story continuously, and of course it's an obligation, and it's defined. It's a limitation.
Yes.
Limitation. So, and this kind of limitation, many of them exist in cinema, dramaturgy, for example, and the most important things must be close to the end. But how, for example, if the hurricane or explosion happened at the beginning, and after that, how to growing tension?
Sure, which in a way
historically.
And in a way, it's a fallacy for us, right? Because we are trained, like you said, we're trained by cinema.
Yeah,
so the climax always comes at the end.
Yes.
So we live our lives thinking that the big thing is going to happen in the future.
Yes,
Always.
yes.
It's just this kind of attitude
Yeah,
I see in myself,
imagine
right?
climax in the beginning and after that. So it is also limitation. And also it's a wrong thing to do that my films represent, it's a historical films. It's not a historical films. I use this footage for, first of all, like with Stalin funeral, I would like to recreate this atmosphere and to give spectators opportunity observe carefully, long takes, observe crowd, people, faces, try to feel mood of that time. And of course, I organized these episodes in special way. And I have at the end my opinion about that.
Yes.
I express my opinion in the text at the end when I mention how many people were killed because of Stalin and his policy. And
After we watch people love him for
after
several
we
hours.
watch, yes. And also I add this episode with a lullaby.
Yes.
At the end also. So it's a kind of my postscriptum or coda for
Yes.
all this event. Also, it's my voluntarism.
Your
my
part,
will.
your statement, yes. Your imposition on the material.
My position and my statement that yes, it's very poor people if just looking to them from a sky. Very poor, and yeah, it's pity that they live this kind of life when maybe possible to, I don't know, maybe impossible. I don't know. So, and this is very complicated and difficult to name that it's historical films, but based on historical archive, yes. And only one truth which we can say that it happened, the things happened in front of this camera. And some of them, because I made the investigation when I work on a film, we just find when this footage was developed, because I have this statement from lab for each reel.
Ah, okay.
Yes, and
Like the lab report from
yes,
the
lab
development
report.
of the film.
Lab report. And some of this footage was shot week after. It means that they collect people and saying, okay, guys, we need this kind of shot.
Like the Orwell thing, the organizing the spontaneous demonstration.
Yeah. And yes, not a lot, but this kind of footage also exists. Yeah.
Fascinating. And I know you need to go, so very quickly, I understand you're working on a new project right now, which is being shot live, not archive. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct. We shoot now in Ukraine since August 2022. And every month, a few times, we shoot different episode from life, from different places of human life in Ukraine. And what interested me that how this tragedy, this war, transformed society, influenced society, what happened with the people under this tragic event and tragic, war. And this project I made with Arte France, and I have this possibility to continue shoot, and it will be they will release episodes, and it will be a film at the end.
But it's documentary material?
It's a documentary material, yes.
So it's episodic on Arte, and then you'll put it together into a feature structure.
Feature structure, yes. But we'll see what happened. with this war and what happened with all of us in the future, because we now passing through serious transformation, not only in the east of Europe, but in general in the world. Yeah, it's just beginning of the serious process. It's another topic to talk.
Yes, it's a door that I'd love to go through with you, but I know that our time is limited. So I just want to say thank you so much for being so generous with your time to speak with me today.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode of 1984 Today. I'm very grateful to our guest Sergei Loznitsa, and of course to you for listening. As always, please check the show notes for ways you can support the podcasts. All blessings are gratefully received. I hope you come back and join us again. Meanwhile, keep the fire burning. We'll be back with more fuel next time. Goodbye.